Many of us have learned about a new mental illness while scrolling through our phones. Some of us might even thought we had them. Now, when we see the term mental health, it defines our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Today, we're going to be discussing all that with our guests. Welcome to a new episode of Youth Talk with me, your host, Sarah Hidushi. Who better to discuss mental health with than our beloved psychologist, Hind Lahmar. Good morning, Hind.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course, welcome. We also have present here with us today Miss Lamia Tazarut. She is also a clinical psychologist, but you also might have seen her on her platform that she co-founded, Mental Health Talks. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah, for having us today in Youth Talks.
Of course, ladies, welcome. So, as I said in the beginning, today we're going to be talking all things mental health. These past few years, mental health in Algeria has had the stigma around it faded, thanks to social media, of course. But we also still have a long way to go. What are some steps that you think we can take to destigmatize it?
So I think this is a very important question. One of the best steps we could take is something called psychoeducation. It's when psychologists come forward on certain platforms like Lamia has or like the one I have, where we talk about mental disorders, we talk about where to go to treat them, what are the symptoms, but this should not be a tool to self-diagnose. It is just a way to spread awareness about what there is out there and how to get help for it.
Of course. Now, Lamia, as someone who follows your page, I've seen many posts talking about how mental illness should be normalized in our society, how seeking help should be normalized. What could you say about this?
Surely there are a lot of positive returns, but when we talk about social media, let's say that it is interesting and important to not take everything seriously on social media. So we need to choose the right resources, and when we say resources, we're talking about choosing the right people, the right mental health professionals, the right pages, because some informations can mislead us. So we need to be careful because, as you know, social media has a lot of informations and no stop. So we need to filter what we read and what we get exposed to on social media.
Okay, so ladies, aside from being great content creators on mental health, you are also practicing psychologists. So you have many counseling sessions with different people who have different mental illnesses. Now, we asked a couple students what were their opinions on visiting a therapist or trying therapy. Many of them said that they already tried it, and those who haven't are willing to try it. Now, we also need to talk who needs therapy here. What are the cases that can benefit from therapy?
So I like this question because a lot of people have the assumption that only those with severe mental disorders can seek therapy, when in reality, anybody can go to therapy. You don't have to have a mental disorder to go. You don't have to have a problem to go. You can just be going through certain problems, certain stress, certain pressure at work or at school, and you could seek professional help. You don't necessarily have to be mentally ill. So anybody can come to therapy, and everybody is welcomed to a therapist's office.
Thank you, Hind. That was a great answer. Lamia?
I can add one more thing. Not on social media, but in reality. Usually when we receive patients, we have that common idea. I came here because I want to seek help, but I'm okay. I want to make sure that I'm not sick. So it's very common. But when we start explaining the role of the psychologist is when you consult a psychologist, it's not only for evaluation or to know if we have a pathology or we don't. So it's also to, if you are struggling with taking decisions, if you're going through a breakdown or a negative mental state, it is good to consult a psychologist, not
So-
only for severe problems.
Right, so everyone is welcome at your office
Yes.
to make the
Surely.
A little. The fact that anybody going through a divorce, if your children have failed the baccalaureate exam,
Right.
if yourself have failed the baccalaureate exam, or you did not pass your exams, or you might be going through a friendship fallout, all of these situations can be addressed in therapy.
Right, so it can be used as a support system for our
Surely.
daily life. Okay,
Exactly.
great. So Lamia, you've talked about something very interesting in the beginning when you said that with the uprise of social media and mental health being a popular topic on it, a lot of people who are not maybe specialists in the field talk about these different mental illnesses, give out symptoms. So logically, people start to relate to these symptoms and they start to self-diagnose, which can be very, very harmful to them. How can we deal with that?
Are we talking about self-diagnosis, or are we talking about the impact of the huge informations in social media?
I think we need to talk about the self-diagnosis part because I've seen it happening a lot lately.
Yes.
And when someone says, okay, I have this mental illness, but I haven't been to a therapist, so I haven't been properly diagnosed.
Now, if we talk about self-diagnosis as a phenomenon, it's quite natural to self-diagnosis ourselves. So we tend to classify things and try to understand what we are going through when we read in Google. Sometimes we make research, sometimes we ask people, and sometimes we read information on mental health. But we can't avoid self-diagnosis. That's something that we should say. But at the same time, we need to have a certain control. Because if we get like a lot of information and we start associating things with what we're going through, we can end up having some misleading informations and getting biased. So we have a lot of students, especially students, who, for example, think that they have ADHD, social anxiety, bipolar disorder, and it's quite like it's really, how can I say, we're talking about mental health disorders, not normal states. So people don't have that filter to distinguish between a normal mental health state or negative mental health state and mental health disorders. Also, if we talk about the wrong use of terminology, we can notice that there are a lot of trends on social media, people talking about, especially non-professional people, talking about ADHD, talking about depression as a disorder, as an episode, and not having not making the difference between what's a state and what's a disorder. So people, when they read about mental health, they can't really, they don't have the baggage to use terminology like professionals. So
right.
that's another problem that that can make people get the wrong information or get biased.
Right, that was a great view of the topic. Now, when we talk about mental illnesses and go into therapy, that's the first step when a psychologist can diagnose you properly with the right mental illness or mental disorder. Now, it can be very hard to adjust to that. How can we deal with that? When we are diagnosed, or someone that we love and we live with, a family member, a friend is diagnosed with a mental illness, how can we help them? How can we make some changes in our daily lives or our acts towards them that can make them feel a bit better?
I think Lamia will agree with me on this. The biggest problem we see in people is that they don't have a support system. Like, their family do not support them. Their family do not even know of their diagnosis. There is a certain shame and there is a certain, like Algerians say, when it comes to mental illness. So they are afraid to tell their environment of this disorder or of the diagnosis. And this is something that needs to change. People need to talk about what they are going through and what what they're been diagnosed with. So their family can do the research. So you as a family member or as a friend or as a neighbor or even as in your job, if you know somebody that is suffering from a mental disorder, the best thing you could do is to search about it, know how to help them. There are many resources online. Let's say you have a friend that is struggling with depression. The best thing you could do as a friend is to talk to them, to listen to them, to go out with them when they need to. I mean, having a support system is the best thing you can do.
That's a great answer, Hind. So, ladies, we also asked a couple of students their opinions on this topic. So I think we should go listen to what they have to say and come back and continue talking.
All right.
So let's hear the talk.
I think that mental health plays a pivotal role in somebody's life. It influences our life in many sides because it helps us it plays a crucial role how we cope with stress, how we maintain relationships, so it has a very and I think it's quite an important topic that should be normalized, and we should spread awareness about it, and that people should really be more interested in.
Your mind can either make you or break you, and your mind can be as dangerous as a fatal infection or a fatal disease.
Well, mental health is everything for a person, you know. When it's a mental health that's ruined, you are ruined as a person. You can't go on with your life. You will get crumbled by the days, and you will face a lot of consequences depend on your mental health. Not really, because mental health was always taboo in society, you know, the Algerian society. We have this act of toughness. A lot of people, I don't need therapy, I don't need anything, I'm strong, I don't need anybody, I don't need therapy, you know. So we get raised like that, so we are afraid to go to therapy.
To be honest, no, I've never been to therapy. And actually, when we talk about therapy, I wonder because sometimes people don't know when they should go to therapy. Is it like we should go to therapy that we know that we needed it, or is it for us to decide? I think people should at least experience it for once.
No, I haven't personally, but I would really love to have the therapy experience.
I think they would be very supportive if you talk about family and friends. I don't know about the others, but yes, they would be supportive.
I've never really expressed the thought of me wanting to go to therapy, but I'm not really. I'm apprehending this because, you know, we live in an Algerian community. Not everyone is open on therapy, just like not everyone is. We have cases where people are not really open on physiology doctors, so let alone therapies.
Actually, they were really supportive for me. They helped me they told me go for it. When I feel down, I go to my close friends, family, especially my sister. She's really supportive and encouraging person that I have in my life.
I'm an artist in 3 fields, so I always express myself and my feelings and my hidden thought by drawing or rapping, or also I'm a comedian, so when I make people smile, it makes me smile too, you know.
To be honest, I have a kind of a special way to cope with stress, and when I feel down, I go to sleep. I think maybe, I don't know if it's common, but sometimes sleeping helps you escape your fears and stress, but it's not a very good way to cope.
When I feel down, one of the first things that I like to do is, now it depends on why am I feeling down. Is it because I'm feeling down because of a person, because of a specific person, or because of an event that happened? In case I am feeling down because of a person, or I had a fight with a person, I rather avoid the person in particular with whom I had the difference and I have my go-to best friend, so I would let all my feelings out, because these are the initial feelings. You have have a lot of anger, a lot of agony, and things that you do not really process when thinking. So I rather tell them and just pour them to someone else instead of the person in particular, in order not to hurt them. And once all my feelings are out, like I get all my poison out, and then I just analyze myself and calm down. Once everything is out, I get back to my senses.
I believe mental health should no more be a taboo. It should, like, we should always like spread awareness that this thing, like, you should really prioritize your mental health before everything else.
It's a lot of work, I think, because it's a work of generations. What made people mentally unstable is generation and generations of bad habits and bad thinking. So what we need to change is the next generation ideas and the next generation habits, so we will make the next generation more mentally stable, more mentally happy.
The first thing to do is to talk about it more, to make people more aware of it. We have to remove this aspect of shame about it, because us as Algerians, we feel shame whenever it comes to something wrong with us, whether it's in our physiology or in our mental. Especially when it's in mental, people directly go to the fact this person is crazy, and we cannot diagnose someone as crazy. We are not professionals, we are not therapists, we are not psychiatrists. So make people aware of it, have more discussions, be open about it, whether to adults and also to kids also.
So we are back. We have heard you talk, and now we're gonna go back to our conversation. So, ladies, we witness daily horrible events happening around the world from the comfort of our homes. Now, our generation has witnessed COVID, which was very traumatic. We are also now witnessing what's happening in Gaza, in Palestine. It's a state of constant stress and guilt. I think we need to talk about collective grief. What is collective grief, and how can we deal with it?
So this is something I've been talking with Lamia about on our way here. So collective grief isn't an actual term we use in our field, but I do see where you're coming from. So collective grief can be determined as when a group of people experience a similar bad experience at the same time. So I think the best thing we can do, and I'm going to start with children and then I'm going to move on to the adults. The best thing to do with children is to not show them the videos, to not expose them to what we as adults are seeing on social media. I've been seeing a lot of parents who show their kids like the videos and the torture and all those traumatizing things, and that is not the right thing to do. So we could talk about the Palestinian cause with children by letting them draw Palestinian flags, letting them draw the Palestinian country with colors, with flowers, something artistic, something that will make them feel better. And as for adults, there is a certain guilt around, you know, the images on social media. There are certain obligations that one might feel to reshare those pictures to help the cause. And we do understand this guilt, but it's not something that we can actually help with. There's not much things we can do by like exposing ourselves to these images constantly. It's just going to alter our mental state. The best thing we could do is talk to our loved ones, our family members about what's happening, and to go out more and find a community of people that are going through the same collective grief as you said, and support each other.
Right, so Lamia, there is another state that I think we should talk about a lot,
Yes.
especially our generation that was born into capitalism. We often tend to glorify hustle culture, so we find ourselves working, studying different fields at the same time. And then we hit a state of burnout, where we don't want to do anything, we lose passion. How can we deal with that?
First, we should distinguish the difference, between burnout as a syndrome. Burnout, we usually find burnout at work, cultural work, and we don't talk much about it, like with students. Like, students suffer from burnout, but I think the right terminology should be living with stress, living with stress to cope with social change. It's all about coping constantly with social change. So it's more like a collective state. We are going through changes, and we experience stress. We try to achieve our goals. We try to cope with our environment. We try to evaluate. We try to learn. So there is no way to not stress. And especially with this change that is, it's crazy. It's going
It's constant,
It's
right.
constant. So we're not talking about the burnout. We're talking about living the stress. Also, the aging, like the routine we have in our lives. We should take in consideration the general needs, having like lack of sleep, not eating well, having bad social interactions, the basic needs. Now we're talking about the basic needs. If we don't have them, if we don't take care of such things, we will have like huge problems dealing with stress. So it's all about stress, how to deal with stress.
Stress
We
management,
often,
right.
like, we don't have that culture, let's say in Algeria or in third world countries, how to deal with stress على حسب la culture ديالنا.
Right, لازم نتبعوا تاني like الجو تاعنا. So Hind Lamia have talked about a couple of interesting points. She said that we need to tend to our basic needs. We need to build the collective, as you said earlier. We need to talk more about our feelings. What are some other steps that we can take to spread awareness about mental health and take care of ourselves?
So to spread awareness about mental health is something that a lot of people I'm seeing they're doing recently. They are creating associations or platforms like Lemia did, or just having an account on social media, or even doing activities and conferences and workshops where people can come in, especially students, and they get to know more about stuff. As a psychologist myself, what I usually do is build workshops for teenagers or mothers or children, and we have them all in one group, and we have certain activities, certain exercises. We talk, we laugh. Some of them even start crying, and that's totally okay. So this way, these activities will spread awareness about mental illness, and it's just that you give one person the education, the knowledge of this specific problem, and they will spread it to other people. So I think the more people stand up and start volunteering and start posting more and start talking more about it, they will actually spread more awareness about it.
Thank you. That was amazing. So Lamia, Hind said that both of you organize workshops. You have your platform. So I think the main thing that comes up to our minds when we talk about mental health, we talk about therapy, and someone is convinced to do it, but they don't know where to go. They don't have many informations on the topic. And since you have a platform mainly interested in mental health, what are some resources that we can share with our viewers today if they're looking to seek therapy or seek help here in Algeria?
So at first we clarify that we are a platform specialized in creating content related to mental health.
Right.
We don't offer sessions. We can guide people to seek help from professionals. We explain the process to them. What's the role of a psychologist? What's a psychiatrist? Is there a way to have therapy and medical treatment? Is it okay? Is it normal? So we offer the right guidance to people who seek. There are like many people who send messages just to, because it is quite hard to find that, to find like people in their environment where they can get guidance.
Right.
So what to do? How can I consult a psychologist? How to do it? Also, from another side, we don't have. I'd say we don't have the capacity to do it all. Like giving like the right contacts. It's something that we can't really do because we can't offer such services to people. And be sure of the quality of therapy.
service, right.
That's another issue. But we do our best to explain to people what to do and how they can proceed.
Right, so I've seen Hind many times on her Instagram account, on her stories, share a couple of specialists in different fields. When people ask her for addresses, of course, that's a way to help. Now, Hind, you also help people a lot when you answer their questions, when you help them seek help them get better, whether that be on social media or through your organization that you created. Now, what would you say if we end the episode today on a positive note and you share with us some success stories that came from helping people?
So I do have one person in mind. Well, I'm not going to mention any names or any ages or any locations, but she was searching for a way to convince her parents to seek professional help. And she came to me and we had a very long conversation and we called a few times, and I was mostly talking to her as a friend and not as a psychologist, because we do not conduct consultations online, on the phone.
Of course.
So I was talking to her and I was like giving her ways to talk to her parents, giving her ways to get out of her comfort zone. And after a while, we stopped talking, and then she came back and she thanked me. She was like, it worked and I'm so happy you helped me. And it kind of made me proud of my work, and it made me realize that I can help people, I can spread positive awareness, correct awareness about what is going on and how we can spread and help people more.
Right, Lamia?
I'd say it's the same thing for me. For us, we receive positive interactions all the time, in comments, in messages, and yes, there are some. I can choose one story, and it's more like it's related to suicidal cases. We receive a lot of cases where people are thinking about suicide. So I get in touch with them. I try to make them feel comfortable, because most of the time people, when they get in touch with us, they don't see how they can help themselves. They just need a person to listen to them, a professional person to guide them to feel peace, because when they get in touch with a professional, it's not the same when they get in touch with a friend, especially when it comes to judgments, and it's not the same. We just listen to them and we try to help them feel comfortable and then guide them to the right process.
So thank you, ladies. It was a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for these beautiful, positive stories that we could give some hope through them to anyone who is watching us today. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you for having us. It has been a great experience.
Of course, anytime. So, ladies, I wish you luck with what you do. I hope to see you continue to spread positivity and help people. And to you who watch our show, we have come to an end. See you in the next episode.